Hi, the topic that we are discussing now is factoring. The question that we'll be discussing in this video is explain the various types of factoring. Let's understand the meaning. Factoring is a relationship or an agreement that is created between three parties seller, buyer, and the factor. In many cases, factor could be a bank or it could be a financial institution. This financial institution will pay the money on behalf of the buyer to seller for a requisite commission. Now let's understand the types of factoring. The category of factoring will largely depend on each aspect. The first category is recourse and non-recourse factoring. Means in case if there is a default, who is going to own the risk? In case of recourse, if the buyer is not paying the money back to the factor, the seller will have to take the risk. In case of non recourse factoring, it is the factor or the bank who has to take the risk. The second category is advance factoring or maturity factoring, which means when and how much of the money of the contract will be settled. In advance factoring, 75 to 85% of the contract money will be settled, but in case of maturity factoring, only on the date of contract maturity, the amount will be received. The third category is the regular conventional or full factoring, which is nothing but the meaning of the factoring. The fourth category is domestic factoring and export factoring. Here we'll talk about the number of parties involved. In domestic factoring, there are three parties involved, that is seller, buyer, and factor. In case of export factoring, there are four parties involved: exporter, importer, exporter bank, importer bank. The fifth category is limited factoring, which means it is only for certain invoices the seller will be able to approach the factor to discount, and only certain invoices will be converted into cash. The second last category is selected sellers based factoring, selected buyers based factoring. In case of selected seller, the seller sells all his accounts receivable to the factor along with invoice as per the contract. The sellers are normally approved by the factor before entering into the agreement. In case of selected buyer, here, the factor or the bank has a right to choose the buyer basis on credit worthiness. The last category is disclosed and undisclosed factoring. In case of a disclosed factoring, the name of the bank or the financial institution or the factor is mentioned in the invoice. In case of undisclosed factoring, the name of the factor is not mentioned and the buyer and seller will not be informed about these details. Thank you.